could just tell Palpatine that like his greatest enemy isn't Yoda or the spawn of like his apprentice, but it's actually like an antique salesman, like in Coruscant. You know? Welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
And I'm Nick, and today we are talking about Andor Season 2. And without, of course, further ado, we're talking about Andor, which means we're also going to talk a little bit about Rogue One. Potentially the greatest Star Wars story ever. Maybe even more elevated after this Andor finale. Insanity.
You know, it's funny that you're saying that. Like, I think I've heard like several people now say that their favorite trilogy in Star Wars now is Andor, Rogue One, and A New Hope. Like that's the new like favorite child right now.
Or Andor Season 1, Andor Season 2, and Rogue One.
Yeah, numbers are funny like that. You can play with them however you want, you know?
But honestly, that is a great point. Andor, Rogue One, and then A New Hope might be the best trilogy if you didn't have to worry about like, you know, original order and release and all that BS.
Well, I think some of the argument for that is just like how seamless like all three of those work from like finale to finale, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty cool how well that's stitched together. Yeah, same here. But Nick, let me ask you, you know, as far as Andor, we're a couple weeks removed. It sounds like you're already pretty jazzed up about it. You know, like just an overall feeling that you had walking away from Andor Season 2.
This was done extremely well. When it was first announced that they were going to do 3 episodes at a time, I was pissed because just from one, being able to keep up with that on a weekly basis, and then 2, we do content and stuff, so that makes it extremely difficult for us to also be like on it and watch them all at the same time.
This is true. Every time Disney tells the world that it's going to be releasing some popular show, like 3 or 4 episodes at a time, Nick calls and texts me and just immediately rants about it. And like, I agree. It's what the hell? But this time,
yes, this time ended up being a little bit different, actually. Granted, it's still really tough. Even just like weekly, even if you didn't do content, it's just really tough to like watch all 3. And then because you want to have that enjoyment of talking to people online about it regardless, right? And that means people have to watch 3 episodes. Probably takes a few more days. Then you only have a couple days to talk about it. And then you have to watch 3 more again. It's really quick. But the way they did this particular season in Andor, it was really, really awesome, right? Because like each section of 3 episodes is basically a year difference. Like a year passes. And it was such an interesting way to tell a story because like in those sequences, there are like really specific gaps and specific events that like shape what happens at the very end of Andor Season 2. And it ended up really being a cool way to tell a story, in my opinion. And I loved it. That was Andor is one of the best, if not the best Star Wars story, in my opinion, after watching that. It was really good.
I definitely agree with you. It's for me, it's definitely one of the better shows. I think I'm probably going to come off as a bit more critical, not just that I feel like the most, but overall, like I had an amazing time with this show, and like it was done phenomenally well. Honestly, like I think my only real complaints about it are there's so much detail, it's almost too much detail. And like I feel like I sound like an old man when I say that, but like there were times where like certain characters, like I wouldn't know who, because like we hadn't seen this character in a while, and like their screen time was like so limited, I'd be a little lost as to like who some characters are, you know, especially in Season 2, toward the end there. But you know, all the heavy hitters, their stories were really interesting. My favorite probably was Luthen.
100%. Luthen is the main hero of the Star Wars universe, in my opinion.
Hero's a strong word, but like he is the father of the rebellion. I'll give you that much.
If not for Luthen, Darth Vader and the Siths win. That's how it is.
Who knew that? Like, I mean, like it's funny that like if you could just tell Palpatine that like his greatest enemy isn't Yoda or the spawn of like his apprentice, but it's actually like an antique salesman like in Coruscant. You know, like
The
that's
amount
actually
of
the greatest
anger
threat to the Empire.
Palpatine would have if he knew. The cool part about that, or at least the Rogue One thing, is like there are some things that Andor does in Rogue One that immediately in my head after rewatching it, I was like, this is Luthen-esque. Like Andor went full circle and is acting essentially like Luthen would in certain scenarios with Jyn or so. And so I thought it was really cool that that's the thought I had after watching Andor, right? Because they're creating his story basically after the fact, right? And so they really did a great job with the development of Andor's character, with how they portrayed Luthen, and then how that all like transitioned into Rogue One. Just phenomenal.
So Nick, tell me, finale, what really works for you? And I guess like when I say that, the finale is really 3 episodes. So I guess starting really from episode 10 to 12, what worked for you in that finale?
Oh man. So we get like the backstory for Luthen and Clea, which I thought was really important because this whole time we know that they've been working together. We just don't know really, and they have like this weird kind of relationship, right? Where she kind of like listens to whatever he does, but like she also is empowered to like make her own decisions and suggestions. And so there's like a weird tension there. And so we get this backstory about how like I guess Luthen used to be like an Empire sergeant, or he was a sergeant, and he was, I guess, partly responsible for her family dying, but he sees her and essentially decides to take her in. And like, this is kind of, I guess, the moment where he decides that he wants to like grow a rebellion from the bottom up, which is kind of like a really cool origin story in a way for their relationship and the rebellion, right? And I thought that was like phenomenal way to give us some information. We also find out during this time that like this is when we first hear that like the Empire is building a secret weapon, and of course the secret weapon is the Death Star. This was like the first like really proof that the energy program's a lie, and like we just got 10 through
To be
12.
fair, there were subtle hints that
Yeah,
the Empire has like been up to something,
sure, but like
like
10
all the
through,
way back in season 1.
yeah, but like 10 through 12 is like the official like walls are falling, right? Like communication is like falling, like walls are falling on like the secretiveness of things. And so, and then we're also getting some backstory.
That whole sequence is so it's so cat and mouse. I mean, the moment that Deidre has Luthen like in her sights,
Yeah,
and she's in the shop, and you know like you
tension,
know
dude.
he's not going with her, but you're just not really sure how. And like
Right.
Luthen just decides, yeah, I'm gonna off myself, and
Yeah.
it becomes this cat and mouse race of like, can we keep Luthen alive? And Clea's on like a war path to make sure that Luthen dies, right? And then of
Right.
course, like you said, we get that emotional backstory between the two. That's pretty. It's interesting to see them in that way, right? This father daughter relationship, which is not really something. It's not really how I had seen them before.
Right.
Yeah, I'd seen them in more of a partnership, and I think I think throughout the majority of their past, they do actually have that, or as far back as like she's even a child. But there are those moments, right, where
Right.
it is a father daughter relationship.
Yeah.
And
And how heartbreaking too, how like their relationship was built so well, and they both had such a great understanding that like the only thing that matters is the rebellion. And so she knew she had to finish him off to ensure that their plan was like gonna go through. And it was just like so heartbreaking, but also like impressive because you also get to see her in a little bit of a different light than you hadn't seen her yet, right? She was like very behind the scenes, very secretive, and then this moment she had to just be like use all of her spy power basically and everything that she had learned to kill the guy that taught her everything she knows, which is like so crazy. That's kind of like what we got through that. So interesting.
well, it kind of like harkens back to a conversation that Luthen has with Cassian earlier in the season, right? Where he actually might not be Cassian. I forgot who he has this conversation with. Where he reminds whoever the person that he's talking to, who there's so many of them just want to get out like at any given time. Luthen has this conversation so many times with people of someone who wants to get out, and he reminds who he's talking to that like their destinies had been decided as soon as they made this their mission, right? It's going to end in their death, and like whether or not they get to see the fruit of their labor, they don't know, but they're going to make sure that they actually die for a cause worth dying for, right? Hopefully planting the seeds of the destruction of the Empire. So I agree with you. I think the finale is really, really awesome. I wasn't expecting the reveal at the end. Like I was really unimpressed with the end of season 1, with the conversation between Cassian and Luthen. I thought it was kind of lame. I thought it was like the worst part of the whole show was the finale, because it was one of those situations where he was asking him, it's like either choose to live a life worth living or choose death, right? And it's like, well, we know he's not going to die at the end of this. Like, what? Right. We know he still has work to do.
Right.
So I was pretty I was disenfranchised by that ending, right? And then season 2 ends up being phenomenal. Same way that season 1 was really phenomenal. But, I figured that this was really only going to end in one way with like, some kind of good segue into Rogue One. And of course that does happen. But then you get that extra scene with Bix.
Yeah.
And the child. And that was so unlooked for. And like it, you know what that was? That was A New Hope, baby. Like that felt like, at the end of Rogue One, while like, man, that movie is awesome, it's filled with so much doom and dread.
Yeah.
And like, I think that movie stands out because it doesn't feel very Star Wars, right? Like so much of Star Wars is built on hope.
Rebellions are built on hope.
So to have that like this inkling that like not all of Cassian Andor is dead. Like there's a part of him that is still alive out there. Like that was awesome. I loved that.
That was very unexpected. And it really does change the ending of Rogue One. It changes the feeling, right? It's crazy when you think about how that one scene completely changes how you view a movie that's been out for years now, right? Like the way that they've done this. And so really interesting.
Does it change how you view Jyn Erso and Cassian's relationship?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like, same.
I think the first time I watched it, or originally, like there was some tension there, right? You were like, oh, what if in another world, if they weren't going to die, maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
But upon rewatching it after Andor finished, I was just like, Jenny, you never stood a chance, girl. There's no way. Like it was purely like business the whole time, in a way.
I feel because like there's definitely like something there like toward the end, right? Like as they're doing the final mission together.
Yeah.
And like I kind of like imagined it as like not that they showed anything romantic, but it felt like there was a chemistry there, right? Yeah. A little bit, especially as like they're waiting to die. And I don't know, retroactively now that I see it now with like the idea that Bix is still out there. By the way, that was a nice twist. I kept waiting for Bix to die. I was like, well, this is dumb. Bix is going to die at any moment. And like the idea that she just leaves, that she just decided like, I'm going to leave the story. Like, I don't need to be in the story anymore. Yeah. Like, I loved that. I was like, holy crap. That was actually really unexpected and like somehow worse than her dying.
Right. Exactly. It was worse.
It was worse.
I'm assuming she knew she was pregnant in that moment, or she...
I think looking back on it, I think that's the implication.
The implication, yeah.
But yeah, like with like retroactively looking at Jyn Erso's story and like her and Cassian, I think now like I think it's more like he feels. I think he believes in her, right? Yeah. Like when she's like, I'm gonna rally, I'm gonna do this. Like whatever chemistry I thought was going on there, retroactively, I'm like, no. He feels inspired by her.
Yeah, exactly. And he plays a very Luthen-esque role in getting her to join the rebellion essentially and like get on board with like wanting to change this. And that was just that's the thing I really loved about watching them back to back is like you really get to see the full character development of Andor. And then he ends up essentially turning into this Luthen figure in that Rogue One. the one more thing I wanted to mention real quick about Luthen, and I forget if this is in season 1 or at the beginning of season 2, because like I rewatched them. We watched them basically congruently together, and I don't think there's a more badass ship than Luthen's. Show me a better. This is what the Millennium Falcon wishes it was. I'm sorry.
Damn, those are some fighting words.
Luthen's ship is so much more advanced than anything we've seen someone in the Rebellion fly before. Like the getaway from that starship or the Star Destroyer or whatever, it's so freaking cool. Like it is as good as it gets. And we'll definitely clip it in here because it is like the coolest. It's the coolest scene, one of the coolest scenes in like all of Star Wars, in my opinion. Like I freaking loved it. And I think we've done a top 5 Star Wars moments before. That might be in my top 5 now because that moment was so cool. Anyway, had to say it, had to mention it.
If we're talking about top Star Wars moments, episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion, with Maz's speech on the Senate floor.
Dude, I'm so glad you're bringing this up. This is the next top thing I was going to say. That is
that episode. I think that's the best episode in all of Andor. And I think it's one of the best Star Wars stories.
Yeah.
It is intense and really awesome. And it's funny to me, like, I think the tricky part about prequels is ultimately where it's going to go. So like trying to create stakes or trying to build tension, I think can be really tricky.
Yeah.
But that episode does it masterfully, right? She's probably going to get the speech out, maybe, or not, right? Like, you start to question. You're like, well, maybe she doesn't actually. Like, I know she'll survive, but, like, this is important. Like, how's she going to get this out here? And, yeah, everything that goes into that of, like, who do you trust? Who can't you trust, right? Like,
I have friends everywhere.
God, it was such a masterclass in building suspense. It was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely riveting, honestly. Best... Yeah, I think I'm with you with that being the best episode for sure of Andor. Like, that was insane. The speech was fantastic. Delivered brilliantly by Genevieve O'Reilly. Excellent.
Yeah, props where props are due.
Hell yeah. What else is on your mind?
I have to bring up my favorite character in all of Andor. I don't know if this is true for most people. I feel like most people probably don't like him. I love Cyril.
No, he's the worst.
I love
him.
him.
You would like him.
Love him.
You stink. Boo.
Dude, this story. Are you kidding me? This story is fantastic.
He sucks, dude.
But that's why it's so interesting because he sucks.
I will say
he
his
sucks
arc
so
was,
hard.
I did like where his story went. I really hated him the first like half of the whole show. Like, well,
like he kind of felt like in the beginning. He probably wasn't my favorite. I don't think I really started to enjoy him until season 2, because like he kind of felt like Team Rocket in the beginning, like because like he's like bad guy who sucks at his job,
Team
right?
Rocket, yeah,
that's what he was. He was Team Rocket. He was never imposing or really threatening, and then in season 2, I feel like he really kind of comes into
because he was dating a powerful woman.
For the record, I love Dedra too.
Yeah, she's great. She was great.
She is great, and I love where both of their stories go. I think both of their stories end perfectly.
Yeah.
To have Cyril be this what's the line from Rogue One where Vader being like the ultimate like dad jokester?
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations.
And then he starts like force choking. So Cyril, I feel like, is the embodiment of that. Like, don't choke on your ambitions. Being like way in over his head, trying to get stuff done, and shooting way above his pay grade, and just messing it all up. Only to find out that he's being used for like this horrible manufacturing job going on Gorn, and to find out that the Empire is like this manipulative, and it's using him as a tool to like sow those seeds, and like someone he loves is like using him to sow those seeds, right? Yeah. Only for that all to start blowing up, and then to see the man he believes ruined his goddamn life on the other end of this, and for him to just snap and try to pin it all on him, and then actually whoop his ass, only for that guy to look at him and say, "Who are you?"
dude.
Amazing.
Cyril died twice that day.
He did. He died. That's such a great call. He
He died
did.
twice.
Oh my God. My boy got shot through the brain and the heart.
Yeah, Andor absolutely bodied him with that. It's like, who are you, man?
Oh my God. You know what's funny? Like minutes before Cassian said that, I actually said it to myself out loud. I was like, does Cassian even know who this is anymore? Because like they hadn't seen each other in so long, and Cassian's been through so much.
Insane.
And then perfectly, who are you? Yeah, it was awesome.
Apparently, I think it was the director had to like fight, not the director.
Showrunner? Tony Gilroy?
Maybe it was Gilroy. He had to fight to have that line in there.
Oh, did he really?
Apparently.
Dude, that's like one of the best moments of the whole show.
I know, it's like crazy.
It's crazy.
It was considered not to be there. Like, anyway, that was a moment for sure. That whole thing with Gorn, that whole like, marketing campaign, really, like well done, so well done. Like the storytelling there was really cool, crazy.
I really like this show for how it represents the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
I think that throughout most of Star Wars, maybe this isn't true with like Rogue One, or not Rogue One, with like Rebels, but like most of Star Wars, I feel like we don't really get to see like the Empire like be a cunning and ruthless machine. Like really, like we get to see the Sith like do its thing, right? And like I don't necessarily assume. I mean, they are the same, right? But tomato, right? They're both part of the same entities, but they don't operate the same.
Right.
And most people in the galaxy are familiar with the Empire, so like it's really cool, or it was really fascinating and horrifying to see the Empire be an actual well-oiled machine, not the lame stormtroopers who can't aim that we're used to, right? And
how dedicated all of the members of the Empire were to their cause, right?
To the Empire, yeah.
Like
that was neat.
Insane. Like there's no one is questioning anything. They're all just
They're zealots.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, this is the right way for sure. Like, like what a crazy thing.
Which, I mean, that's a really great. I mean, but that's a great point, because I mean, like, the end of Revenge of the Sith, you get the line we heard a lot these days, that this is how democracy dies, to thunderous applause, right? So like we should be seeing that blindness, right? That people believe what they're doing is right and this is the way. And it's such a great contrast to all the different rebel factions that we see.
Sure.
Like Saul Guerrera is a great contrast to the Empire, right? Like he's someone who vastly believes in what he's doing, and like he's insane,
right?
And he's not really the heroic type that we associate with the rebels, right? So yeah, that's a really great call, that like for as efficient as they are, like they're zealous, and like you look at them and you question like, how are you like this?
In one moment that really stands out how much they are dedicated to the Empire is that there's that moment where the ISB agent or sergeant or whatever it is, the one that's kind of in charge of making sure, I think he's the one who's in charge of like Deidre, and they end up like failing, and Luthen ends up dying, and like basically the ISB guy ends up killing himself instead of going to face the reprimand.
That scene,
instead of being reprimanded, he ends up killing himself. And the cool part about this scene is there's a recording playing in this scene, and it's Nemec reading one of his passages from his book from Andor season 1. Like he was like recording the rebellion things or whatever on this camcorder, and the Empire like had this in their possession, and we're listening to Nemec basically talk about how rebellions are made while the ISB guy's like killing himself because he failed. What's worse though, ending up in one of those prisons like Deidre at the end, like.
Can we talk about that? Like that was probably my favorite concept of the entire show, was the prison, the Empire prison, that was created. That I really want to know who came up with the concept of that prison, or like what inspired them to make it, because it messes with you mentally, man. Yeah, it is true torture.
It's insane, especially the whole reveal in season 1 about like you're never getting out of there, right? They just like move you to a different wing. I'm like, fuck.
To my knowledge, I feel like that's the first time that we learn that the Empire's up to something.
Got it.
Because like
Yeah.
they're building stuff, and they're like, what are we even building? What
Right.
even is this for?
Is
and
for
like
the Death Star.
right, and like
Right.
the question that hangs, as we the viewers know, it's probably
Right.
Project Stardust. It's probably
Right.
the Death Star. Yeah. I will say, like, there are, like I said earlier, there are moments in this show where there's like heavy emphasis on a character, on a minor character, and I don't understand why. Like I think it's the end of episode, I want to say it's episode 7 in the second season, where the last shot is of someone from Cassian's past is in with the rebels, right? And like somebody recognizes him. It's like, oh, it's you, and like that's the last shot. And like I'm literally, I can't even remember the guy's name. And like he's with Cassian in the last 3 episodes of the whole show. And when it like freezes on him, it's like this big moment that he's there. And I was like, I don't remember who this character is, show. Like, you've hit me with so many other important things. Who is this? Tell me. Give me some kind of context. And then, like, we didn't address it again until, like, episode 10. And it was like, oh, okay, he's just with Cass now. Okay, so, yeah, his name is Rule Scott Melshi. He's not that important. And, like, an episode ends with, like, the fact that he's, like, in Yevon. And it's, like, the camera actually frames on him for, like, a moment. Like, he peers out from, like, the corner of, like, or behind somebody else. And, like, they're surprised to see him. You're like, oh my God, he's here. It's this guy who's been so important to this story. And I'm like, I don't know who this is.
Actually, you know what? I think he was also in the prison with Andor.
Oh, that would explain why it's supposed to be a reveal. Okay. Oh, right. It's the same guy who they separate from each other. That's right. Yeah. Now I remember who this is.
That's why he's more important.
That's why it's like a reveal.
But fuck, it's not hard to tell. Like,
yeah. Did you when you saw that?
No,
did you know who that was?
I'm finding this out for the first time
right
now.
This is my whole point. Whole point. And don't get me wrong, it actually is kind of cool. Now that I know who he is, like that is cool. But like what I'm like, and that's from the first season.
Crazy.
And like it's episodes ago, and like years ago at this point in the actual timeline of things, and we've seen so many characters. I don't know who this dude is. And like I'll be honest with you, as far as prison characters go, not the character I was hoping to see. Andy Serkis's character is the character from the prison I was hoping to see, but he had probably one of the most devastating lines in the whole show. I can't swim. I can't swim. I actually yelled at the TV when he said that. I will never forget that when he says that. I'm like, no. That was devastating. Absolutely devastating.
Absolutely heartbreaking. It's like, no, you're gonna learn right now, sir. You're
right?
gonna learn
just jump. Oh my God. Two more things. I feel like Saul Guerrero like could have been explored a lot more through this show. Especially I don't know. We were told how insane he is. We got to see him be insane for like an episode. I wanted to see him do more though. I feel like that was not necessarily a missed opportunity. Just I just wanted more out of Saul Guerrero in general. I think he's an interesting character.
What are you giving a rating? Give me a rating.
What do we do for shows?
I think it's 10.
Yeah, I think it's 10 too.
I usually ask this question.
I feel like I can't go lower than 9. I can't go lower than. Ooh, actually, I'm so sorry. I have to. Okay. Okay. So there is one thing. The budget for the show is really great at times, and then there are other moments where I'm like, the restraints of this budget are showing. Like Gorn, the fact that we can't see any other part of Gorn except like the main city plaza, and like one random street, and that's it. Like that's it. Like. Don't get me wrong, the budget was used phenomenally in like most other parts of the show, but like man, in Gorn, like you could see it like stretching hard there.
That's funny.
And I couldn't like unsee it once I had the thought. But anyway, I'm probably still gonna stick with a 9. It's a great show. It's fantastic.
9.7.
Ah, look at this guy shooting for the stars. Wars.
It's good as it gets. Wow. Boo. All right. That's a review. Please let us know in the comments what you think about Andor and then the transition into Rogue One. Follow us on Threads. Hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and keep up with everything that we are reviewing. What's next for us?
We should go back to time travel.
Maybe we'll do a time travel film. Anyway, keep tabs. We'll be talking about what's next here on Threads and YouTube. In the meantime, don't forget to check out our earlier video about Ozfest, where we talk about 3 different Wizard of Oz universe films. That is on our YouTube page now as well. And until next time,
May the review be with you.
peace.